Welcome to all my family and family out there. How are we doing today? We're so happy to be here with you. We give honor to life for bringing us together today. Ifa Ela ministry aim is to be able for every one of us in our community to come together and bring forth the small, the great, seemingly problems that are facing our community that is holding us back from moving forward. Last week, we talked about what does sex and love means to you personally. We related the discussion to 5 and 6, meaning Ifa Ela really, meaning life, the beginning of life, the principle, the number one principle of life. That's what 5 and 6 is, and obviously it involves minimum of 3 people: father, a mother, and a child. A father, moremi, and the child, meaning omo. That's what 5 and 6 means. That's what sex and love mean to me personally. But I think it's high time everyone out there to begin to ask themselves this vital question: what does sex and love means to you personally? It's a worthy question to ask yourself. Today, what we're going to be talking about is just like the days of Noah. What do I mean by that? For me, just like the days of Noah, just like the days of Noah's Ark, to me, that means a promised land. But first of all, let's look at what was going on prior to Noah's Ark. The story that men told us, or if you like, the system told us about Noah's Ark was men and women were living a sinful life that is so out of order that God cannot tolerate it anymore. Henceforth, God raised up Noah to build an ark. Henceforth, for every people who are of light, of God's way, to enter into the ark, because flood was going to consume the earth. Now, I want us to look at that from 2 aspects of things. We were told it was sin that angered God at this time. For me, how I relate to a lot of things kind of differ to the way the system had taught us since our universe has connected with me. And so let's look at sin from men explanation. Sin is doing wrong things, and then you be forgiven by God. The thing about sin is people tend to commit sin, and then they will ask God for forgiveness, and then they will commit another sin and ask God for forgiveness, and commit another sin and ask God for commitment. This, ordinarily, if you will look at it, it's saying to us that we're treating God like God is like men, that you can just commit sin and then confess, and then God will give you forgiveness, and then you do the same again, or even worse. That is the meaning of sin. For me personally, I think sin, like most things, are just things that men put together to create a scenario whereby a person will not be able to move forward or connect to the purpose of God in their life, because you'll be busy fighting sin, which definitely do not have a root. And anything that don't have a root, it means it's made up. It is not of God. And when that's the case in a person's life, then you end up just going around the circle, isn't it? You won't be able to go straight. So for me, I don't subscribe to sin. Not anymore. Now, that's one scenario. The second scenario, which makes sense when you look at the situation properly from your own thinking, or if you like, from your heart, because when your heart speaks, that always into our foundation, because it's almost as if God is speaking to you. So let's look at this second scenario of how I understand things now. You're born into a confused world, a world that is full of contradictions of all kinds. And now you don't know what to do, how to do it, and you just go with the flow. Now you're in a position whereby light has come into your life. And you're saying to yourself, God, come and remove all these confusions, all these contradictions from my life, so that I will be able to be of your purpose and preserve your purpose that is in me, all around me, straight path, forever. Do you see the difference from somebody making it a job, ringing into your ears that you're a sinner? Guess what? The word sin in somebody else's language could possibly mean a good thing. That's the funny thing about languages. God did not write sin, that's what I'm saying. So, for you to move forward in your life, do not subscribe to things that are of men. Begin to consult with your heart. Now, let's get back to just like the days of Noah. For me, I ask myself, how was life being lived prior to the invention of the word or language sin, or war, or warfare, or warship? Then my heart began to speak to me. My heart began to instruct him in the path of life, the way of God, clarity way. Our ancestor, men and women, during their days, they did not subscribe to war or warfare. They lived their life in accordance with the principle of the universe, meaning Alafia. Alafia is the way in which God speaks to us directly. Allah means in Yoruba, that's what English language called dream. And of course it can be of three-way road, but you will know precisely when it's your heart that speaks, which is totally different from when spirits are doing spirit things. It's also different from when man are practicing the practices that don't necessarily connect with God. So during our ancestors' days, they live in Alafia. They are able to hear from God when God speaks to them. And it's 6/7, it's 24/7 if you like. In the four corners of the universe. They were able to hear when God speaks, and they are able to function in line with that. In the four corners of the universe. That's how our ancestors, men and women of those days, lived their life in Alafia. Now, weigh these two coins, or these two scenarios. You have Alafia, and then you have warfare. Do you see the difference? Now, Alafia is a language that Yoruba, meaning Yoruba people, speaks among themselves. If you speak everything in Alafia, there's not much to speak, because you're just speaking an overflowing word of God that comes from your heart in more ways than one. It's automatic ibadah, i.e. praise of everything as one. This is what prompted me to ask, how come media or anyone, say the system for example, never told us any history or story about a life whereby the world is war-free? Maybe it's just me, but a lot of the time I see a world whereby there is no war. This time, our ancestors, men and women, they were not engaged in their lives in fighting war with one another. Rather, they were living a solution-centered environment all the time. And the language they use that time is Alafia in place of warfare. I guess that time, our ancestor men and women of those days, they were not busy getting jealous of one another or I guess that's the reason. They are just living life in accordance with the principle of life that gives everybody enough space that is of their own passion to honor everlasting God, personally and collectively. Now, unlike the days of Noah, people, men and women, young and of ajay, meaning age, we all have to cleanse ourselves before we have the opportunity to enter the Noah's Ark of today. For me, how I understand, how I have clarity about the Noah's Ark that I'm talking about is more of a promised land, and is a place whereby you will need, it's a must, you'll have to be mind, body, soul connected as one, and be ready to do the work of self-cleansing before you can enter the promised land, Noah's Ark. Because what is clear to most of us now is that men are very good at telling the story of God in the manner that it suits their needs. But it's also clear to us now that God is not in the business of destruction, i.e. destroying the world, as the story of Noah's Ark has made it plain. God don't create and then destroy everything that God has created, no. However, when men set out to destroy God, we realize that they will end up destroying themselves. Now, what do I mean earlier by self-cleansing? What I mean by that in a succinct manner is that you cannot fake it anymore. You must go through the process of rewind, meaning you have to remind yourself who is the real living God that created heaven and earth and everything in it and that gave you life. We all need to have clarity as to who is the real living God that comes from everlasting God, to give us clarity and teach us precisely about the way of God that has no confusion or contradictions, meaning straight path. Secondly, you will need to review every step that you have taken from as far back as you can remember who you are, at least on the outside, and that will help you to reflect on the inside. You will need to review every process that you have done to protect the planet and every process that you have done to hurt the planet, knowingly and unknowingly. Then we're ready to start a process of self-renewal that will help us to stay reformed in the light that keeps us standing in our light always. On that note, we're going to take this time. It's also another opportunity for us, as we always do in the Ifa Ela ministry, to honor all ancestors and all generations. The light of life that is more fiery, more brighter than the fire that we use for cooking. We honor all ancestors, all generations, the energy that is in us, all around us, straight path forever. Instruction of the week. Days of Noah is what I see as promised land established, even before man, but it takes a little work or our connection to God to bring it forth, and it will last forever. As we already know clearly and genuinely, God is not in the business of destruction. But if men are so determined to destroy the world that God has established, then it will be of no argument that men will end up self-destroying themselves. Ẹni tó bá ní òun pa gbogbo ohun ẹ̀là rẹ̀, ṣe bí onítọ̀hún ni yóò pa ara rẹ̀, torí pé ọ̀pá kì í pa ọ̀pá lára. Ọmọ Oòduà, I will just mention those that comes to my mind right now. Jew, China, Europe, India, Africa, etc. That's what Ọmọ Oòduà that I'm talking about. That's what I mean by Ọmọ Oòduà. Stop practicing sacrifices that are not of love. Ọmọ Oòduà, stop practicing sacrifices that are not of love. A medieval or ancient way of living life that don't honor ancestors and generations. Òṣùpá ò jẹbọ, b'Ọbàtálá tí mọrí ọmọ, kò ṣẹ̀yìn mọrí mi. Ifa Ela, ẹ má gbé ọmọ Ọbàtálá f'Ọ̀ṣun. Ọ̀ṣun máa ń fúnni lọ́mọ ni, Ọ̀ṣun kì í gbọmọ lọ́wọ́ ẹni. Ẹni tó bá balẹ̀ jẹ́, ilẹ̀ ó ba onítọ̀hún jẹ́. Ẹ má bá Ọbàtálá jiyàn mọ́. Àní ríyàn ní Áfíríkà o, àní rí èèyàn ní orígun mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin ayé o. Àmọ́ ó ní ẹ̀là ò ní fi wá sílẹ̀ o. Ẹ má sọ lékèlèké di ẹyẹlé. Ẹ má sọ ẹyẹ lékèlèké di ẹyẹlé. Alafia to all. I wish all harmony. Next week, I have Ọpẹ́ Àṣẹ that Moremi Ifa Ela will keep us beyond next week. Ọpẹ́ Àṣẹ is what English language call peace. Ọpẹ́ Àṣẹ is a situation whereby you're giving praise already as to what you do in your heart. Moremi Ifa Ela has already done. Moremi Ifa Ela has already done. If you use the word hope a lot of the time is something that is out of your reach. God don't do that. God is. You understand? What is already is. And what is going to be already is. That's God. Ọpẹ́ Àṣẹ. That Moremi Ifa Ela will keep us beyond next week, and we'll teach each other about how to start a process that will enable us to be worthy of that life that is beautiful, that is established for our community as people. God people are not brought to the earth to suffer. God people are not good just so for them to suffer. All this teaching of you're good on this earth means you will suffer. After you die and you get to heaven, you will enjoy. That is definitely, that is not of God. That's just how men speak or how the system present God to you. No, the only heaven you have is here, is now. And you must live a life that is beautiful, because our God is beautiful. The beauty that's so generational and made perfect and permanent forever that money cannot buy. We have to stop a minute and give honor that belongs to money, and then first and foremost give honor that belongs to the living God, that comes from everlasting God as well. God did not make us good people or want to hurt anyone, to suffer. It doesn't work that way. If anyone should live a beautiful life, it's those who don't hurt planets. It's those who don't want to hurt the planet, who don't want to hurt everything that is in the planet. It is definitely not the other way around. So please, let's start to connect with God that is in our heart and begin to think straight, not round and round the circle in vain. God is not in vain. Being good is not in vain. Ifa Ela ministry, love you all. But remember, the greatest love is the one that you have for yourself. My body, my mind, my soul belong to everlasting God. In all your glory, in all your glory, all belong to me. In all your glory, everlasting God. In all your glory, all belong to me. Alafia, we give honor to life that continues to give us the clarity and the straight path to be able to even think the possibility of knowing how to self-cleanse ourselves in order for us to be worthy of the life that celebrates everlasting God, that celebrates living God, that celebrates all ancestors and the generations, energy of life that is beyond man's understanding, and will continue to give honor to Ifa Ela, God that knows our name, as a worthy community of people that is worthy of a beautiful life. Ela Alafia to all. I keep all my Alafia to myself as well. Ifa Ela will keep us beyond next week.